We're good, Ravina. We are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Saturday morning class, unless it's afternoon for you.
Good day, Ravina.
Hi, Michael. Good to see you. How's everybody this morning? Hi, Diane.
Good, all right.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jeannie. All right. We are live streaming this morning, so we have maybe more people watching today. That's fun. I don't mind it anymore. I used to not like it that much because I used to think, geez, I can't tell who's watching. But that's okay. It's Saturday morning. We're casual today. Well, I'm still wearing my t-shirt. I usually wear my Get Set Up t-shirt just for fun. It's beautiful and sunny where I live. Oh, it's so nice. We were just doing the watering on our balcony garden. Our tomato plants have probably doubled in size since we planted them not so long ago. So that's exciting. My little cantaloupe plants are not doing great. So they're still very small. And I think they just have one little tiny root. So I have to really baby them to hopefully they survive. All right, so welcome everyone to class today. We have Max in support. He'll be helping us there in the chat if you've got any issues with connection or tech stuff. He's your guy. I will get going here, and we're recording as well, which is good. Just to make sure we're all in the right spot. Today we are talking about detoxing our home. What does that mean exactly? Well, you know, we do a lot of things to stay healthy. We eat healthy food. We try and eat, healthy looking food. What we're putting into our bodies, we really usually double check to make sure that it's the best we can. But what about what's around us? Like, what about in our environment? Not only when we go out for a walk, but what about in our home? Because we are in our homes a lot, especially right now. We're spending lots of time in our home. So we're gonna look at some interesting things that we can do to make sure that our home environment is safe from toxins, or how to reduce our toxins in our home. So just a few little housekeeping things. I'm pretty sure I've met most of you. If you are brand new to Get Set Up, welcome. And for any of you that are on the live stream, my name is Ravina Chandra. I'm one of the guides here at Get Set Up. I think there's about 30 of us now, somewhere around there. And I do a lot of the health and wellness style classes and some personal growth classes. So anything to do with wellness, prevention, holistic focus, those will be my classes. So, and it's just something I've been involved with and interested in since pretty much childhood. I've always been interested on what makes somebody happy, what makes somebody healthy. I always wanted to know, what do they do? What can I learn from them? So I've always been curious. So that's great. And so now I get to do what I really, really love. I worked as a nurse for many years, and it was more once a person was sick already, but now I get to just deal with people in the prevention thing. How can we prevent ourselves from ending up in the hospital? That's my goal. We do learn from each other. So, you know, try to put your camera on if you can. Nobody cares about if your house is clean or not. I don't think anybody's noticing that kind of stuff. And hey, we have all these really amazing backgrounds. Like Lorraine is at a beach right now. That looks awesome. She's got a palm tree behind her. I love that. And yeah, it's just, there's some really interesting backgrounds now that make it kind of fun. We are live streaming today, so so you're aware of that. That means that outside people that we cannot see might click on the TV icon on our website and get into this live class. So they'll be able to listen to us, they'll be able to see us. We can't see them, and they can't really communicate with us. So they might be waving to us, but we can't see it. And lastly, we don't get paid any kickbacks or money for promoting a specific service or product. So if I do talk about it, or other guides talk about anything, it's just because it's something that they think is a good thing, or that they've used and had good success. So just so you're clear on that. And we say that probably every class, so I'm sure you guys are clear on that. So what are we going to do today? This is quite a fun class. Well, first of all, we're going to understand, why are there so many harmful chemicals around us? Like, why is that? And it seems to be getting worse every year, or just worse every year. Why is that? The second thing we're going to learn is, what are the most common toxins in our homes? So the more awareness we have, the better way we can take care of it. If we're aware, then we can do something about it. If we're not aware, well, then it's hard to do something about it if we don't know. Sometimes we're in a little teeny weeny little bit of denial maybe about it, but we'll cover some of that today. And then we're going to look at some simple action steps that all of us can do, like right away, even during this call, or right after this session, that you can go and make some changes in your home environment, which will really, really help your health. And we'll talk about what sorts of things might you notice with your health that could be because of something in your house, not something you put in your mouth. All right. Does anybody have any questions, or before we get started? I really do like the reactions button down below. You can find it down on the bottom of your screen on most people's, unless you're on a mobile. It might be somewhere different. The reaction button allows you to put your hand up, so I can see that your hand is up. It also allows you to clap or give a thumbs up if you're agreeing with something I'm saying, so we can feel like we're a little bit more interactive, a little bit more engagement, that we are pretending that we're all in the same room. I can't wait to actually teach in person again. That will be really exciting. Not with this platform, but just to be able to see people right in person. I really am looking forward to that one day, hopefully soon. All right, let's get started. So I want to ask, this is just a quick poll question, and you can just put your hand up or put it in the chat, say yes in the chat. First of all, if you want to put in the chat, just say hi to everybody. Just say where you're from if you don't have it up on your name. And then, so say where you're from, and then say a yes or a no. Have you switched to organic or natural type of products specifically to avoid chemicals? Has that been something you've done in your lifestyle already? Nice. Carolyn's from California, it looks like. It's California. Sandra, that's great, Sandra. You've got yours right on your name. I love that. We can see you're from Detroit. That's awesome. I should put that on mine. I don't know. Does everybody know where I'm from? I'm actually from Canada. Yeah, I'm in Canada, West Coast, furthest West Coast you can go, Victoria, BC. And it's around two hours or so north of Seattle, if you're from the United States. Yeah, okay, so some of us haven't actually done it, but some of us have started to incorporate some of these things into our homes, which is really great. There are lots and lots of options out there now for the cleaner products, which I'm really excited about. Okay, so yeah, so Mina, you are from Canada. That's great, from Kitchener. So you're from the other side of Canada. Excellent. All right, well, that's great to see. So some of us have started to have a little bit of awareness of maybe we should be using something a little bit less harmful to us. So I always like to start off with this. Yeah, you're right. Like Diane, I feel like I've done well in some areas, but in some areas I just haven't. I'm thinking, I don't know. I like that toilet cleaner. It seems to clean the toilet the best. So we'll go through some stuff. So what affects our health? Well, there is a thing called the 8 pillars of wellness, and I have that up on the screen. It was just more for your for your knowledge that we have these 8 pillars of wellness. So we look at, there's the physical, there's the social, there's the emotional, there's the occupational, financial, spiritual, intellectual, and then the one that we're going to really look at today, the environmental. And so then I asked the question, what affects our health? Well, lots of things can affect our health. What our diet, what we eat, what we put in our bodies, how we move our bodies. Do we move our bodies? So exercise, I don't really like the word exercise, but movement. What kind of movement are we doing? What are we doing consistently in our life right now? That's one of the biggest things you can do for all-time health. If you've taken any of my other classes, I usually talk about movement, and movement doesn't have to be running a marathon. I myself have never run a marathon. I don't even really like running outside, to be honest. Hurts my knees. But just movement in general, even sitting in a chair and moving your arms, like any kind of movement is better than just being sedentary. The other thing is genetics. Unfortunately and fortunately, our genetics can get passed down from other generations in our families. Sometimes it skips a generation. You've heard of that, right? Maybe something from your grandma or grandpa has come to you and it skipped your mom or your dad's generation. Genetics can play a pretty big part. Sometimes, people say, yeah, I've got weak genes. You've heard that before. Oh, I have weak genes. I have a strong disposition, or a strong, what's the word? I can't think of the word right now, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes we think, oh, my family, everybody's lived a long
constitution. I have a strong constitution.
That's the word I was thinking of. Constitution, a strong constitution. That's something we used to say maybe back in the day. I have a strong constitution. You got that from your grandmother. What about longevity? It's like, oh, we've got great longevity in our family. I'm for sure going to live a long life. I think it's good to have an idea of your genetics, but all right, what's the other one? Medical history. Have you suffered from medical conditions? So, and then maybe some of these medical conditions, like say maybe asthma or a respiratory problem, could it be from the home environment? That's a question to think about. Maybe you've moved now and maybe just miraculously or just over time, whatever it was cleared up. You can start to be a little bit, let's look into, investigate a little bit on how you were feeling in certain environments. There was a lady who had really bad symptoms and she couldn't figure out what it was. She went from doctor to doctor to doctor. And as it turned out, she kind of started to see a trend. Every time she went away for a while, she just went to stay with her sister so her sister could look after her. She would start to feel better. But as soon as she came home, it would come up again. And she had some pretty severe symptoms. They couldn't figure out why, until somebody figured it out. And they had a problem with some pests, like bugs. And so every time they would go on a vacation somewhere, that was when the husband thought this is a good time to spray. So they used to spray the outside of the house. So you get where I'm going with this. They used to do it every time they go on vacation. Oh, perfect time, we're away from the house. They would do a spray for these insects. I don't know, I can't remember if it was ants or it was a problem. But the problem was this house wasn't very sealed very well. So we would go away. She would start to feel better. Like she had some pretty severe symptoms, headaches and like migraines and all sorts of stuff. But she'd go away on a vacation for 2 weeks. She'd start to feel better. She was like, okay, I've turned a leaf. This is great. They would come back to the home. And after a couple of days, guess what? She would start to feel really ill again. Can you believe that? That was from spray happening on the outside of the house, but the windows, the seals on the house were not great. So she was taking in this toxin from the spraying of pests. When you see the pest guys, they've got their trucks and they come, usually, hopefully they've got masks, their full mask on and stuff to protect themselves. What about when they spray crops? You see people doing that and you just like, how good can that be for me? They're all suited up. So things to think about. All right, so that's with medical history. What about family and social support? I think that can be can really affect how healthy we are, if we've got good support to eat healthy or not. And then we come to the environment, which is what we really want to really hone in on, is our environment. So there's an example of somebody who for years, like I'm talking, they lived in the same house for years and thought that the wife had MS, or she had also she was having balance issues. Like it was quite horrendous, and all the specialists couldn't figure it out until one day she connected the dots. Something gave her that, connected the dots, that when I go away from this environment, then she thought, what is different about my environment? And then they figured out it was the pesticides, the toxins that were being sprayed outside the house. All right. That's just to give you a little story so you have an idea. So why are toxic chemicals a problem for older adults? So for us, 50, around 50 and higher, 50 and older. Why is it a problem specifically for us? Well, first of all, there's a lot of contradicting advice online. You could Google, this is good for you, or that is not good for you, and you will get proof that it is good for you or it's not good for you. Do you know what I'm saying? Whatever you're looking for, Googling, you'll get an answer for each side, and a strong answer. And you feel like, oh, okay, this one must be right. You really have to look at the source of your information. So please do me a favor, whenever you're reading a scientific article, a study, a survey, anything like that, try to read the small print. Find out who did the study. Is it the person who's trying to promote their product? Is it the person who's trying to confuse you that this type of thing is not harmful for you? Remember, we as humans have to take some responsibility and charge for what we breathe in and what we eat and what we accept in our home environment, because the other people out there, the governments, our doctors, the specialists, they may be looking at overall the benefit for us humans, but really they're not looking out specifically for you, unfortunately, because they can't. And we'll get into that in a sec. The other thing I want you to notice and note, and this comes straight from my husband, who is an environmentalist, and he works for our government, provincial government here in our province where we live. He said that the information, most of the information that is out there on the internet, is targeted to families and children, not to us. It's not very specific to us as older adults. What does that mean? That means that, how can I give you an example? The information might not be as relevant to us at our age. So the studies, the surveys, the results that they get are really based on studies they've done on a family or younger people. For example, I'll just give COVID as an example. I don't know, hopefully I don't get shut down here, but with COVID and the vaccine, remember there was some very specific data out on how did it affect the 70-year-old and higher, the vaccine I'm just talking about, just for example, or the 17-year-old. So it was very specific to different age groups. So what are we interested in? Well, obviously for our kids and our grandkids, we're interested in that too, but we are interested on how it affects us, our age group. So that's what I mean. A lot of information out there is targeted to families and young children. So keep that in mind when you're reading, when you're doing your research. This is the other one. Us older adults could be at higher risk for the simple reason is that we have maybe suffered a medical condition or are currently suffering a medical condition. So what if we've got diabetes? How does this particular toxin affect me compared to the healthy individual? So you see how it's quite different as an older adult. And we'll get into a little bit more about that. This is the biggest one that we do not think about. I did not think about this one. The next thing on the slide, toxins may have been building up in our bodies for decades. So for example, I'll pick on Michael. Maybe Michael's been living in the same environment for a while. I don't know. Let's just pretend, you've been living in the same house for 10 years, 20 years, maybe. My mom and dad lived in the same house for, it was 35 years, I think, when my mom passed and then my dad finally moved. But if there is some type of toxin within your environment and it's not going to kill you day one, or maybe not even kill you day 365, what if you've been living in that environment next to that plant, or next to that, like a plant, like a industrial plant, or something that's a slightly toxic, but it hasn't killed you yet, let's just say, like to be graphic, but it's years and decades of building up in your body. So think about that one too. That one's a very, very interesting thing. That's why as older adults, we do need to be careful. The 15-year-old, yeah, we don't want them to be exposed to something, but they've only been on Earth for 15 years. We've been on Earth for 55 plus years. That's a really huge, huge one. Now, for all of you that are, 70 out there, that's awesome. Look at you. You're here, you're learning. We've got smiles on our face. Maybe we've got some aches and pains. Maybe we do have a few medical conditions, but your environment hasn't disrupted, hopefully, your life too much. The other big one is our doctors, who do their best. For the most part, they're doctors because they are in a profession to help people. Your doctor might not have experience on up-to-date knowledge in this field. Like, our doctors are busy, are they not? They're busy. My family doctor also did rounds at the hospital because she had patients. She I don't know how they do it, but they can be a family doctor, but also do rounds after surgeries or whatever their field is, and that's what my doctor used to do. So they're busy people. Are they keeping completely up to date on the knowledge of what's being sprayed on our crops? What's in our paint that we paint our homes with? Like, what's the latest, greatest thing? What about vaping? Maybe they're more up on that because it's so in the news, but people that don't smoke anymore, but they vape, they use those little e-cigarettes, and those chemicals, yeah, they smell fruity and vanilla and all these crazy smells. I'm sure if you've walked past somebody who vapes, you're like, wow, that's a cloud of caramel or something. Do we really think that's real caramel? Those are probably chemicals in there to give that nice flavor when they're sucking this awful stuff in. But anyways, so I want you to just be aware of that. Like, sometimes we need to educate our doctor. So if we're worried about something specific and we've done a little bit of research without going crazy on the internet, you might want to ask your doctor. Then your doctor could do a little bit of research on his or her medical trusted websites or their colleagues to say, hey, have you noticed any trends with people having dizzy spells in Texas or, in this area? So then your doctor might be alerted to that. So, but keep that in mind. So these two are the most important, I think. Build up over decades, and our doctor might just not know. So let's not just rely on our doctor to tell us if something is safe or not. So the bottom line here is, guess what? Our world has changed. Our world really has changed. Have you seen how many new foods they're creating? Have you seen how many new technologies and things we have out there now? We've got way more than we did 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. It seems to be ramping up. So what does that result in? It results in new chemicals being created every single year. Every single year, there's thousands of new chemicals. So, wow, you got to really keep up to date with these things, right? Like, the scientists are constantly advancing. And because of that, the side effect of that is there's new dangers that we constantly have to keep identifying. Now, I think that they are very, very, very careful when it comes to food products. So I don't want to scare anybody who's vegan or is trying some of these plant-based foods. Like, I use plant-based butter now. I'm trying it out. What other foods do I use? They have to be so careful when it comes to foods, for sure. Maybe not as careful with cosmetics and skincare and cleaners and things like that. But when it comes to putting something in our mouth, these scientists really do have to be careful. But what about these plant-based meats, or they don't even call them meats, but plant-based things that kind of mimic hamburger and things like that. I don't know. I don't know what does it take for them to produce it? Like, what sort of chemicals are released when they're producing some of these things? So just be aware of that. The other thing that is important to note is our governments are falling behind, because guess what? The scientists, the technologists, they are creating more than the governments can keep up with. The governments will eventually get there. So don't get me wrong there. Now, I'm going to speak personally for in Canada, because as I said, my husband works within the government system. So he has said this to me. He helped me with these few slides. He helped me with these slides. He said, unfortunately, the governments have not kept up because it's going too fast. Keep that in mind. Maybe not in your area, but it's a possibility. Here's the big one, and I want you all to hear this one. This is so important. Now, for some of you that are older than me, you've been around when some of these, supposedly safe things came out in our environment, in our lives. And then like 20 years later, 10 years later, 30 years later, they realize, oops, this isn't safe for us. This isn't safe for a pregnant woman. This isn't safe for our children. It's not safe for our grandmothers. So listen, hear me really clearly with this. Bans or regulation. So ban meaning when something's banned, what does that mean? You can't use it anymore. It's banned completely. Banned from Europe, banned from Germany, banned from Canada. You hear that word sometimes. That means you are not allowed to use it anymore. It's banned completely. But then there's also regulations. You can only use it from this date to this date. You can only use it for XYZ. So hear me really clearly. Bans and regulations can take decades to come into play. Decades. Even when the higher ups, so we'll just pretend the higher up men and women who have studied this know that it's harmful to us. Take that in for a second. That scared me. I thought, oh my gosh, you mean if they find out that whatever they're spraying on my strawberries causes cancer, that they don't have to ban it right away? Like, you're kidding me, right? They don't have to ban it right away. No, they don't. Sometimes it takes years for these things to come to fruition. Here's an example. I don't have it on the slide, but we hear about GMO foods, right? Genetically modified foods. We hear about GMO. The jury's out on there, right? Like, they don't know if it's bad for us. They don't know if it's okay for us. They don't know if it doesn't matter at all for us. That's why do you think our products say non-GMO? If it's non-GMO, they'll make sure they tell you it's non-GMO. Have you had a specialist, a doctor, a friend tell you, hey, don't eat GMO foods? Like, we don't know enough about it yet. Maybe they're totally harmless. They could be. I honestly, as a nutritionist and as a somebody with a medical background, I don't know if it's dangerous to us. But guess what? If I can at all avoid them, I'm going to avoid them just in case. So there's an example of something that has not been banned. Now, if you look around the world, I love to do that. I like to look at some of these European countries that are a little bit more strict, and I like to see what they've banned. If you look at GMO foods, they are banned in some European countries. I can't remember exactly right now. I think some of you that have maybe taken this class with me before have a bit more information. Let's see, I can't see if she's in class right now. She might have left. Yeah, there's somebody that has a bit more experience. But if you are interested in this, check out some of these other countries and see, have they banned certain things? So think of that. And then, I put on here, what's the next leaded gasoline? Well, we know how bad lead is for us, right? What did we have lead in? Do you remember what we had lead, which is so dangerous to us humans? Paint. In your life? Paints. Yes. And can you believe it? I mean, they painted our schools. That was the big one, was paint in our schools. And then they found, oh, there's lead in that paint. And people were taking in these fumes and stuff. And lead causes cancer. Lead causes all sorts of like reproduction. Like there's all sorts of terrible things that lead can do, like too much or having lead exposure. Yeah.
Also in the water, for example, in Michigan.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that, but yes, in our water. Oh my gosh.
Yes, the municipal water system in, I think it was Detroit, where they had the big scandal.
Flint. It was Flint.
Flint? Okay.
They decided not to use the Detroit water system, which is one of the best in the countries, and went with their local water system, and then they had lead problems, and they're still dealing with it.
Isn't that scary? That scares me. I mean, if you've got your family there and you've got young people there, it's like, you know, and so this is what, I guess what I'm trying to say. This is not to be, you know, an alarmist, because I'm not an alarmist. I'm actually very easygoing. And I think, okay, what can we do today to help our health? So as a nutritionist, I say, start eating healthy food. So you have a strong body that you are like, even in this today with the pandemic, what can you do other than worrying? What can you do to be stronger so you can help your neighbor if they're not well, or if you can help yourself if you're not feeling good? What can you do? Some of these things, I mean, we could talk a story after story about across the country. Even here in Canada, that's one of the things my husband works on, human health, the soil, the air, and the water. That's what his job is. Like he works on those three things. Sometimes like the mining company that opens up next door affects the soil. So now, is it safe for me to grow a garden in my backyard? Maybe not. Like I grow my garden on a balcony in pots because I put the soil that I have purchased, like organic soil in there. It's not in the ground, but can you imagine you have a garden in your backyard and there's the water table underneath there, and now it's contaminated from the plant, the electrical plant or whatever. I mean, I'm not an environmentalist by any means, but whatever it is that's affecting the water, and now it's coming into your plants, and then you're feeding your family from your garden. So, you know, I don't want everyone to get all worried they got to boil their water all the time, but how many times here where I live have they said, oh, there's a water advisory, boil your water, don't drink the shower water by accident, and boil your water. And in some little towns where I live, that's like for 3 months or more. They have to boil their water every time they're going to use it. So this is just to realize that the governments, the people out there haven't kept up. They're not like calling up Michael the next day and say, hey, Michael, do not, just be careful with the water because we had a little bit of a spill. Are they phoning us up and telling us that? No. What if you don't watch the news? Some of us just hate watching news. So I have to rely on my husband to tell me if there's some big disaster or something happening in my neighborhood. But anyways, okay. So, but the purpose of today's class is really to see what can we do. Even if we could get rid of some other toxins, maybe our body will be stronger to be able to handle some of these other things that are out of our control. I always say, what is in our control? What can we do? We can be alert. We can use our intuition, our gut. If our gut's saying, you know, let's just not drink this Flint water right now until we know they got it sorted out, then don't drink it. All right. We're going to look at the chemicals around us. We're going to identify specifically in our different areas of the home. So let's go through that now. Kitchen, bathroom, laundry room, and living room. Those are the 4 areas I'm going to go through. And for any of you that have done the class with me before, it'll be a good reminder as well. But for the kitchen, and I'll get into the cleaning stuff more when I talk about cleaners and stuff. And maybe I need to add it into this because we obviously use cleaners in our kitchen. But really what I want to get at for the kitchen is like the food we bring into our kitchens, into our fridges, into our cupboards, mostly into our fridges. So there are hundreds of approved chemicals that our governments can use on our food. Approved chemicals that are pesticides. Does that mean that it's good for us to ingest these pesticides? No, of course not. If we can avoid them, it's better for us. It's like saying, I don't know, Would you rather eat the salad where the greens have been washed, triple washed, and then rinsed again and cleaned, versus the person who's in a rush and just opens the bag and just throws it? It doesn't even say triple washed. Like, of course you want the cleaner food. The only time where I've heard people talk about, oh, don't wash it, it's the people that are vegan. No, not just vegan, sorry. There are people that say eat the produce right off the tree if you're growing it yourself, because some of the microorganisms that are part of the plant are good for our guts. Have you heard that before? Anybody heard that? Like, if it's like natural, you've grown it yourself, you know, you don't have to wash it to death. Okay, I get that, but I'm just talking generally. Come home from the grocery store, you see this plane. That's how we have these planes that the crop that fly over crops and drop the pesticides. There are so many pesticides. Even if your food is organic, they do still have to use something. So they use something that's been approved, not necessarily a full-on pesticide, but they do use stuff. Because if you've ever grown vegetables or fruit in your own garden, in your backyard or on your balcony, guess what? We all have bugs. If you had the aphids show up, I've had just little things showing up, and I hate aphids. Poor little aphids, they have to eat, but you know, not my green beans. So health problems have been identified relating to pesticides. Chronic inflammation in our bodies. What about headaches? What about troubles breathing? And what about cancer? Yeah. Since Michael brought up the paint situation, regardless if it's got the lead in it, but just smelling fumes from paint is not good for you. And when I worked as a rehabilitation consultant, and I used to work with people off on disability, and I would go into their homes and I would talk to them, and I would do like a 5-page check on their life. Like, what do you do? Where did you work? What were you doing before? How many kids do you have? You know, I would take the full-on history. And guess what? One of the trends that I identified, and this was before I'd met my husband, who I found out one summer worked in the paint department at the local hardware store. And I was like, I hope you only did it very short time. It was one summer. There was a trend with these, mostly men, because it's usually the guys working in the hard homeware usually, that ended up with cancer, a specific cancer that was quite rare. And I kept seeing it in my disability files. I saw 5. And guess what? They all worked in the home hardware department. And guess which department they worked in? The paint department. And the reason I started really into this was one gentleman. It was a really big store out in Abbotsford. It's a pretty big hub here outside of Vancouver. He wasn't the first guy to get cancer in his department. So there was somebody else. Like, what are the odds? That's not chance. 2 people in that department that worked around paint all day got the same specific kind of rarish cancer. So that's just to give you an example. The dangers are out there. We need to be smarter for ourselves. All right. Oh, and the worst thing is, can you imagine, like, you know, you work your way up in the store, you're like the manager, or you're the head of the paint department, you got a great job, so you stay there, you stay in that department for 20 years. Not good. All right. What can we do in the kitchen? So when our crops are sprayed, it can end up in our fruits and our vegetables, but it also can end up in our meat and our dairy. And how can that happen? That's if our animals are eating contaminated feed. Now, can a cow stop and say to the farmer guy, say, hey, I'm kind of tasting something not good on my grain here. Can you check and see if there's anything going on here? I mean, some farmers will check and test the grain that they're giving to their animals. I don't want to get into a whole big thing like that, because that's going opening a can of worms on like how we treat our farm animals. So that's a big one. No problem, Mina. We'll see you again. Come back to class again if you can. But so our animals, you know, that our animals are helpless, right? They can maybe starve themselves and go, nope, there's something bad on here, I'm not going to eat it. But for the most part, the animals are hungry. They eat whatever's put in front of them. And if they're in, you know, on a farm, and so anyways, I guess the point I'm saying is their feed can be contaminated with pesticides. They eat it, it becomes part of them, their meat. And if we're eating that meat, we're getting that pesticide. So, but fruits and vegetables can be the worst. And we'll talk about some of these things. It really is hard and impossible to know what pesticides are in your food, because guess what? You go to the grocery store, unless you're like me and I do check, oh, is this from BC? Okay, this is local. Oh, this has flown in from Mexico. Okay, well, I really need, these peppers, so I'm just going to buy them. We get food in our grocery store from all over the world, kind of, don't we? I saw Vietnamese dragon fruit the other day, and I thought, oh, that seems really interesting. It's come all the way from Vietnam, though. All right. What I want to say about the kitchen is, I want you, if you can afford to do this, because I understand not everybody can just afford to eat, organic food all the time. If you can look for these labels, that's the US label and that's the Canadian label. Check to see that you have those on there. But one step further than that is, you might have a local farm in your area where you live that doesn't have the money to do the full on organic level registry. That's a very expensive thing to do. So if you've got somebody who's just starting out and they're growing blueberries, let's say, for example, and they just don't have the money to get the certification for organic, talk to your farmer, talk to them, and they might say, yep, this is what I spray on it. This is what I don't spray on my stuff. And local sometimes can be almost better than getting the mass-produced organic thing from another country. So look to your farmers, talk to them, go to the farmers markets. That's where they all are, or at least their associates are there, and you can say, hey, I'd really like to talk to John. I'd like to find out how he grows his blueberries. Be that person. I've started being that person. I think it's great. They love, and believe me, they love to talk about it. If they're doing something right, they want to talk to you about it so you can spread the word. Let's face it, our farmers are these guys and women and men who work endlessly. And some years, if the weather is crappy, they don't make a dime. It's pretty, it's a hard business to be in. So you might have heard of this. I think I heard Deb talking about this in one of her classes, but there's a thing called the Dirty Dozen. There's a website you can go to. If you even Google Dirty Dozen, the website will come up. And every year it can change. It depends, because remember I talked about new chemicals, new technologies. It changes year by year. The Dirty Dozen, these are the things that are on the Dirty Dozen right now. When I last checked: strawberries, spinach, kale, nectarines, apples, grapes, peaches, cherries, pears, tomatoes, celery, potatoes. See, some of the things are in the ground. So I'll tell you this, I do not buy strawberries that are not organic. I wait for the local ones to be grown, and I only get them from the place where I know they don't spray. If I do buy strawberries that are not organic, very rarely, but I make sure I clean them really well. Because why are strawberries one of the worst? Does anybody know why it's the worst? I'd say it's pretty much the worst.
The surface of the strawberries retains the chemicals.
Yes. Who said that? Who is smart? Who said that? Oh, Paula. Yes. Paula, you're right. And why is that? If you look at a strawberry, we don't even think about it, but guess what? The strawberry has its seeds. Where are the seeds? They're on the outside. It's not funny, right? You think of any other, most fruits and stuff, the seed is in the pit or the seeds in the inside. Strawberry, all the seeds are all on the outside, and pesticides get stuck around those seeds. And of course, you eat the seeds. They're supposed to be eaten as fiber with the strawberry. So please be careful with your strawberries unless you grow them yourself, which I am doing. I'm growing strawberries on my balcony. Spinach is another one. For some reason, I think it's probably the bugs that love spinach. Spinach is highly sprayed. Our spinach. So when you get the bag that says triple wash spinach, try and get your organic spinach, still give it a good rinse. Give it a really good rinse. And I'll explain that in one sec. So for me, when I look at the list, the things that stand out for me as an individual are the strawberries, spinach, and the apples, and tomatoes, but I also am trying to grow my own tomatoes. Those are the three, and celery, I guess. I do eat a lot of celery. Those are the things I eat a lot of. I don't eat peaches a lot. I don't eat grapes a lot. I don't eat cherries a lot, or nectarines, because it's kind of a little seasonal thing. So I make sure I only buy organic apples. If I can't afford anything else, I make sure that my apples are organic, because I can almost even taste the pesticide if I eat a regular apple. Because why is that? The seeds are on the inside, but they put wax on these apples to keep them fresh. There's a waxy thing on the outside of apples. So the pesticide gets stuck in that. Have you ever washed an apple? Like even if you're using whatever to wash the apple and then you end up with sticky hands, that's all that the wax and the pesticides mixed in if it's a regular apple. So think about the things you eat a lot of and then focus on maybe buying that one thing as organic. Here's a simple way to clean your stuff. Is you just fill up your clean sink. So make sure your sink is clean to start. Warm water. Put a teaspoon of baking soda in there and just go like a half a cup of vinegar. So a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of baking soda, give it a little swirl around, and then put your apples or your whatever you've purchased into that and let it sit in there, soak for about 5 minutes, not 15 minutes, not an hour and you've forgotten it, like about 5 minutes. And that reaction, that'll bubble a little bit from the soda, baking soda, will just do a little bit of a cleanse on the outside of your fruit, and then rinse it with warm water and then let it dry completely before you put it away in the fridge. So that's the little tip there. All right, let's move on because I want to make sure we have enough time. So the bathroom, what do we have to be careful of in our bathroom?
Wait a minute, how much baking soda and vinegar?
Just a teaspoon of baking soda, and like it says here, add a few tablespoons, anywhere from a teaspoon to a couple of tablespoons, depending on how big your sink is and how full it is. It's not an exact science. And then about a half a cup of vinegar, just the plain old cheapest white vinegar. That's it.
Thank you.
And 5 minutes of cleansing, of soaking. In our bathrooms, all I want you to really focus on is the artificial fragrances. We have it in our perfumes, our colognes, our shampoo, our, everything. It's been linked to headaches, breathing issues, poor concentration, bloating. We didn't even realize maybe it's the perfume in our bathroom that's causing us to feel bloated. Muscle weaknesses, dizziness, even it can affect our hormone balance in our body. So, and it's been linked to cancers too. So I feel like a lot of us have kind of gone away from, using colognes and fragrances and stuff, but some of us might still do it. I know for a fact that in my workplace, we weren't allowed. It was banned. It was actually banned. We were not allowed to wear any fragrances in the workplace because of allergies, because people were having more and more allergies. So you got to think that there's something not good about some of these things. So I don't want to be the bad person saying, oh, you can't have any nice smells. Use essential oils. Buy beautiful little essential oils that are just pure essential oil. Some of them you can put right on dab on your skin. Some people, I can't remember who it was, that said, they use the essential something and just dab it behind their ear. And that gives them that fresh fragrance, beautiful fragrance. Look for things that say fragrance, parfum, FD&C, the phthalates, the DBPs, DEHP, DEP. These are all chemicals that you don't want in your fragrances. So this is where I would also say, don't use those those dryer sheets. Those are horrible. That's just putting chemical all over your clothes that's going to touch your skin. There's things you can use, a dryer ball that's to try and get rid of the static if you're worried about static in your clothes. I know it smells good. Honestly, I get it. It smells good. Somebody asked me about those plugins. I can't remember the name of those because I don't use them. With the little, you plug it in and it makes the room smell great, right? It warms it up. Guess what's in that little container thing in that plug? It's chemical. Do you think they're giving you essential oils that's expensive? No. I'd rather you have a little diffuser and put a few drops of essential oil in something and make your room smell like oranges when you're cleaning or whatever. But really try to, even your makeup and stuff, check the labels. Beauty Counter is there's a lot of companies now that have clean products. So Beauty Counter is one that like they eliminate 100 different chemicals from their lipsticks and their eyeliners and their makeup. So if you're really wanting to go at this full on, get rid of all this stuff. I mean, old mascara is bad anyways. Throw it out. Because I bet you there's a lot of toxins in a lot of this stuff, especially when it gets old too. It's sitting in your, for women, I know we're the worst because I'm like that. I buy a lipstick, and then I don't like the color, but I keep it in case I'm going to use it again. And it just, that's on top of it. It just sits and gets old. All right, that's our bathroom. Laundry is the worst one. And all I'm going to say about laundry is if you are determined to use that ammonia, which is very toxic to you, or that bleach, which is very toxic to you, I'm not going to tell you to throw it all out. I know I still have a little bottle of bleach sitting in my laundry room for those emergencies when I have to clean something, really get it white. What I want to say about bleach and ammonia, they are harmful chemicals to humans. So if you are going to use them, the only way I want you to use them is to have gloves on. Before you start doing anything, I want you to have a mask on. How many of us have masks now? Most of us have masks in our house. It's kind of fun. Well, not fun. It's funny that we all now know how to wear a mask and we don't suffocate when we wear a mask because we're getting a little bit more used to it. If you are going to use these products, please have a mask on, have gloves on, have ventilation. I want the doors open, the windows open, the fan in the kitchen on, the bathroom fan on, anything that can ventilate and get rid of. If you have to clean with bleach, because that's the only way you want to clean your toilet, then I won't stop you, but please make sure you do all these things. Otherwise, that sick feeling, that headachy feeling, do you think that's good to get to the point that your brain and your body is giving you a headache? That means you've ingested this toxin into your body. When you get the headache, it's too late. You've got the headache, you've ingested, you've taken in this toxin. So from now on, and you know what, let's face it, there are some cleaners, I know, cleaning people that might come and clean your home and they use bleach. Fine, don't be in the house. Don't be in the house. Let them do it if they want to use something harmful like that. All right. And guess what? The thing like bleach and ammonia, why is it so dangerous? Because it causes permanent, get that, permanent damage, not just a headache, but it can permanently damage your lungs and your cardiovascular system, and can be the start of cancer. So bleach. Now, somebody asked me about those, the wipes. I can't remember. I don't know if you're here again today. I looked at the wipes because I actually had the Lysol wipes, not Lysol, Clorox wipes, thinking that there was bleach in them. But I went and read my container of those Clorox wipes. It says no bleach. So they've maybe created Clorox wipes to not have bleach, but still put your gloves on. Don't just put your hand there and go, I'll wash my hand. No, use a glove and use those wipes if you're going to try and kill a bacteria, say, in your kitchen. The number one thing too I wanted to mention to you is do not mix anything. Like, don't go, oh, this is a good bathroom cleaner. Oh, this cleans my mirrors. I'm going to mix these, because you can create something even worse for you. So do not mix these chemicals. I'm not even a chemist, and I know, don't do that. One of the other worst things is the carpet cleaners. Does anybody have carpet in their house? A lot of us are starting to, like, new places are starting to just put wood or laminate in their homes. Carpets can hold a lot of bacteria and stuff. The carpet cleaners are harsh. So those poor guys that do carpet cleaning, again, they're like the guys that work in the paint shops. They have to be super careful. The chemicals in carpet cleaner is harsh. So again, airflow. And do you know you can make your own cleaner with the baking soda, the vinegar, and lemon? Any one of those things can clean your counter quite well. All right, let's keep moving so we don't run out of time. We're going to talk about the last room, the living room. This is my favorite because when I found this out, I was so excited. I was so excited. If you've been in the class, don't give it away. So we've talked about air quality is important. Poor air quality is the leading cause of death worldwide. Did you know that? Like, people die from respiratory issues and stuff because of our pollution in our world. Some of these these countries that have really, really bad pollution. I am glad that I live in a place where I can see the sky, the blue sky. Do you remember when we've had fires within our countries, like in California, the fires? Here I'm up in Canada, and it was like with white and gray smoke for days from the spires from California. And we couldn't breathe here. Like, it was so hard to go out and even walk around. You could smell the soot. You could smell the fires that far away. So our air is so important to us. Have you ever been somewhere? I remember when our school, high school, had a fire in the woodworking department, and way over here, and we ended up with black soot in all of our lockers. It came in through the vents of our lockers, and we had black specks everywhere. So it travels. It can travel. So what can it result in? Asthma, COPD. Do you know what that is? Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Hypertension. So people can have an increase in blood pressure from having bad air quality. So does anybody know how we can remove these toxins from our home? So it's in our air. Can anybody think of something we can do to clean the toxins from our air and our houses?
Using a filter.
Yes, that's a great idea, Michael. I will say that these air purifiers can be very pricey. If you're going to get one that really does a good job, and it might say on it asthma, for asthma patients, or, I've got like a top quality one in my house. And the reason I did, if you've taken my brain course, is that I live on a fairly busy road. And when I have my balcony door open and I'm doing my gardening and trying to do something good for my health, the particles I can't even smell are coming into my air. So I bought one of those Dyson air purifiers. Maybe Max can just put that in the chat. Dyson, D-Y-S-O-N, very expensive. I know there are other ones as high quality as a Dyson that are not as expensive as a Dyson. When I have it on automatic, I use, it's just the air purifier, just the latest model. I got it just last year. It looks like a big ring. Like it's like a big, it looks like a big O that's been stretched. That's how mine is. It's very slim. When I open my balcony door, and I have it on automatic, so it will just pick up whatever is happening. I open my balcony door, within about 2 minutes, my air purifier goes into full speed because it's picking up that there's some particles coming in from the outside. Isn't that fascinating? So
do you have to change filters in that machine all the time?
Not all the time. It can last like a good solid year and a bit. And the technician told me if I keep it clean of dust as well, so if I clean the outside of it, it will last longer. Yes, the filter is about $100.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, but when you look at the filter and see what it filtered out, instead of coming into my lungs, it cleaned the air that I breathe. Like, I sleep better. I have it right here in my office right now. It's like very low. It's not very loud. They're expensive. They're like, Canadian, it was around $700 maybe. It was expensive. I had to save up for it, but I've been wanting to get one for a while. But here's the thing, something you can do for free, pretty much free. And this is what I want to leave you guys with. The best thing you can do from everything I've told you and taught you today is to dust. But to dust in a special way. Who knew that dusting could help us breathe better in our homes? Here's the trick. The little particles fly in through your window, through your front door, your balcony door, and they're in your air, so you're breathing it in. But what happens to these particles eventually? They go like this, they fall, and then they land on, I don't know, pretend this is the piano in my house. What do? They land on the surfaces, okay? And now the toxins are in where? In our dust bunnies, under our couch. They land and they get stuck in the fluff. So my husband laughed at this. He says, well, don't disturb the dust. I mean, that's kind of funny, right? It's like, don't disturb the dust. If you don't touch it, you're not going to get the toxins. But what about if you were the person who's got one of those feather dusters? Throw your feather duster out or put it in the backyard as a decoration. The feather duster, what does it do? It like, I have dust right now, I'm embarrassed to say, but next to my office here, I can see here on my computer even, I have a little cloth. What I want you to do when you dust And see, I need to wash this because this side is a bit dirty. So I'm going to fold it over and see it's nice and clean. When you dust, a damp cloth or something like a microfiber, but a damp cloth, I want you to wipe the dust. So I'm just going to wipe my computer in front of me here. And it's going to pick it up on here and the toxins. So if you're going to do cleaning, this is how I suggest you do clean. I'm not like a professional cleaner. I would take a stack of cloths, get them all a bit damp, put them in your little apron or whatever you're doing if you do your own cleaning, and go around your house and pick up the dust and then fold it over the other way, pick up the dust, and then you're done with that cloth. Put that into the thing for the laundry. Use 10 cloths. I say 10 because that's about what it would be for my 2-bedroom condo. And clean up the dust because that's where the toxins are sitting. And if you don't, and somebody disturbs the dust, guess what you do? You breathe it in. Easy. That's kind of like cheaper than a Dyson.
And do your vacuuming first.
Yeah, and be careful with vacuuming too. Depend on the vacuum. Sometimes the vacuum will pick up some stuff, but it's also putting out some stuff. So you just have to be careful. Like some people vacuum with their vacuum, and when was the last time they changed the bag or changed the cylinder or cleaned the cylinder?
Right.
Like 8 months ago. Like, I mean, I'm not putting anybody down saying that's what you do. I've been guilty of it where it's just like, oh, I got to quickly vacuum. Somebody's coming over. Well, nobody's been to my house in a year and a half, but you know, in the old days, you know, when someone's coming over, you do a little vacuuming, right? And the canister looks like, you know, it came from, I don't know. It's terrible. I hadn't cleaned it, or it's like packed in the old fashioned vacuums that have the bag, and you finally open it up and you feel it and it's just full. And so what are you doing? You're just putting the dust around the house. Anyways, using a damp cloth is your friend. That will help you to be the healthiest.
You said baking soda, lemon, and what else are good cleaners? Vinegar?
Vinegar. Yeah, all of those things. You don't have to put all three together. There are some companies there's a thing called thieves oil. I love thieves oil. If you can look that one up.
How do you spell that? Thieves?
Yeah, like as in a thief. So thieves, THIEVE''S, thieves oil. That one's a really beautiful, nice smelling, and that cleans bacteria. When I went to a boutique gym years ago, the lady used this thieves oil to clean all the equipment that we used.
It's THIEVES?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thieves oil. I don't know. There's probably like a multi-level marketing company that might sell it, or you can buy it in the grocery store. I can't remember where I got mine. So I hope that you've enjoyed today's class. It's very eye-opening. It was for me when I was researching this, and my husband was telling me stuff. I'm going, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. You will get an email from me with a little bit of a summary of what we learned today.
I wanted to just add one thing.
Sure.
I went to a pulmonologist for my sleep apnea, and I asked him if he used an air purifier, and he said no, he gets his ducts clean. Well, that's the thing not to do. And from what I understand, there may be a variance of the quality of duct cleaning. Like you can see some bargains and coupons, and maybe that's not the best job, and you have to pay some hundreds of dollars to get it done.
Yes.
I just want to throw that out there because I thought it was maybe good advice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paula. Absolutely. Like we think of anything that like exhausts. Okay, how about this? Has anybody seen this? You know, even in our bathrooms, if you can get on a chair and there is a way to pull off the vent from the fan in the bathroom. If you pull it down and you see, you can clean those things. Like if you do have a cleaner coming or you want to hire a cleaner, get them to do some of these hard out of the way things that maybe you can't even reach. But our bathroom vent, if you pull that down, it's pretty gross. Like there's a lot of stuff you could clean off of it. So I will send out some notes to you. Please do the feedback if you can. I'd love if you could do that.
What are the 4 kinds of common dangerous chemicals around the home besides fragrance? What are the rest?
Well, the pesticides on our food is the one in the kitchen. The fragrances are the worst in the bathroom, like our cosmetics and things like that. In the laundry room, it's the ammonia and the bleach that are like the worst, and mixing cleaners. And then the last one is just our toxins that come in from outside and they end up in our air and then they land in the dust. Those are basically the ones.
Thanks.
All right. So I know we went a few minutes over. I apologize for that, but I'm going to stop sharing. But thank you so much for all being here. I have another class I'm teaching on eye health coming up in just under half an hour. So I look forward to seeing you all again in class, and be safe and be healthy. And I hope that you have learned some things today to keep clean your home environment, get it a little bit nicer than it is right now, safer. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye. Nice to see everybody. Nice to see you, Henrietta.